Hi everyone, welcome to another interview for the Powerful Men's Group. Today I'm very excited, privileged, honoured to be joined by my colleague, my friend, my mentor, Zan Perrion. Zan's someone who's had quite a big impact on my own life. I came across him about 5.5 years ago. And Zan, I'll let him talk a little bit about himself in a moment, but for me, Zan is someone who in his industry, in the dating industry, if you like, in that world, really stands out as someone who has a lot of integrity and is pointing in a different direction. It's quite funny when I often talk to other coaches or trainers, they'll complain about the way people are conducting business or the information or coaching they're giving, and I'll say, well, what about Zan? And they're like, no, Zan's different. Right, so Zan really stands out for me, and like I said, for me, he's been a huge impact in terms of when I was younger and growing up. I always used to think that there is something to do in order to be more attractive to women, to get women to like you, and when I met Zan, he really firmly put the focus back on me, and I'd known for a long time that it's an element of how I show up in the world is how attractive I am. Like what I do and how I show up will have an impact on how attractive I am to others. But Zan really kind of nailed it in a much deeper way and helped me see through what I thought I was doing. So without further ado, welcome, Zan.
Hello, thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here. I mean, I've kind of given you a bit of a rambling introduction, but how would you describe yourself?
Oh boy, I would describe myself as a student of life, I guess. Primarily. I mean, you never stop being a student, so that's how I would say that I am, an excited student of life.
I mean, you've had quite an interesting career, right? You were in a corporate job.
Mm-hmm.
You did that. You got quite high up in that world,
Yeah.
and then you kind of quit it all, and
Yes.
you've now kind of become this gypsy, this nomad, and completely turned your life around. It's quite unusual, right?
Well, yeah, I traveled extensively for, I don't know, 10 years, and then the last few years I've been in Bucharest, and as you know, Ankush, I've been kind of sort of more settled here, I guess you could say, and I kind of use it as my home base, and I go back to Canada to see my family all the time, but I'm between here and Canada more than I am, certainly more than I'm going to other countries and cities like I used to do. So I've kind of parked myself here in Romania.
So let's really kind of dive into some juicy stuff. What I think is juicy stuff. There are a lot of guys that I meet, and not only guys, but I mean we're talking to guys on this interview. But there's a lot of guys I meet who they have their corporate job, right? They have what they're doing day to day, and they have a passion. Now for you, your passion. You talk about seduction, you talk about relationships, you talk about women, but for other men it could be anything. They've got a passion, and they don't make that jump.
Mm-hmm.
They'll still do what they do, live in their comfort zones, go to work, and it's incredible to me that almost every person that I meet has something that if you could wave a magic wand and say what would you really want to be doing, they'd be doing something different. So,
Right.
What made you make that jump? How did that happen? You're in this corporate job, you're doing well, you didn't get sacked or anything,
No.
and you make this leap into the unknown. What happened there? Why did you make the jump?
Well, I for years was wondering about my lot in life and what's the point of making a living if you're not living? And I didn't. I mean, I was good at my job, and I liked the computer aspect things side of it. I was in charge of the IT, and I was in charge of various things, and I liked those challenges, and I was good at it. But there was something in me that needed to see the world and to be light on my feet instead of in Canada where I was. It's like everyone is supposed to be saving for your retirement and getting a mortgage and getting your credit cards lined up, and and doing this kind of stuff, and it's not my spirit. And so I basically, yeah, I got rid of everything and I hit the road, and I had a good job, like I said, or like you said, I wasn't fired, or I didn't have any discomfort there, or it was no unease. It was a good job, but it wasn't my spirit, I guess you could say. So I had to seek what it is that is for me. Now, having said that, there's a lot of guys who are doing something like a corporate job, for instance, and they say, well, what I would never advise guys to do is quit their job and go travel the world like I did. I'm not necessarily saying that. If that has an appeal to them, then they absolutely should do that. Or if they have some unrest in their soul, yes, relative to that. But not everybody has to follow the path that I followed. For me, it was like the freedom path, which called me, and my name was on it, and I had to go down that path.
You talk about the freedom path. I remember years ago you talked about the 3 Fs.
Yes.
Could you say a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's we're motivated by one of the 3 Fs, either freedom, fame, or fortune. And once we have mindfully examined ourselves and said, okay, well, my primary F, and it could, the other ones are obviously play a part in your life too, could be fortune. And if that's the case, then it makes sense that you would work 60 hours to work yourself into an entrepreneur or something like that, or start a business or become a CEO of a major corporation, because fortune is your principle, is the F that you are attracted to the most. For me, fortune is way low down on the totem pole for me, and freedom is number 1 for me. I want freedom above all. The freedom to accept all invitations, to go where I feel like going, to walk the streets and have some coffee with my girlfriend. That to me it trumps any kind of fortune I could possibly have. So, but no one's F, whether it's fortune, fame, or freedom, is more valid than the next guy's, and no one is right. They're all beautiful if they're mindfully chosen.
So what makes it mindfully chosen? Is that maybe the crux then? It's about really choosing what you really want. So rather than you and I giving people ideas or telling them what to do, is that what you're pointing to?
Well, yeah, but the problem is that we can say, well, to find what it is you really love and head in that direction. But if you ask the average guy, they don't know. Even if they have examined it, even if they sat at the end of their bed every morning and said, what does I really want? Because part of them wants to, take care of their parents, for instance, who took care of them, and so they want to, buy their mom a house or something, right? And part of them wants to travel the world. Part of them is in a relationship with a great girl that they love, and part of them wants to, they feel they're still young, that they haven't explored their dating life, for instance. And so you can't. It's difficult for and it's easy to say, but it's harder to put into practice for some kind of a dating coach or life coach to say, find it as you love and head toward it, because they may not know. And today, what it is that they love could change tomorrow because, well, wait a minute, I didn't think about this. So the more practical advice, I think, is to stop doing what you don't love. You know what that is? Stop doing what you don't love. And I mean, Joseph Campbell said, had the best advice, which is follow your bliss. Whatever makes you feel light on your feet and smile on your face, and you feel like you're walking toward some kind of light, as opposed to walking in a drudgery, and walking in a ditch, and you just can't feel anything but the ditch that you're in, and then there's no point in that. So
yeah, and I mean, you talk a lot about relationships and attraction, and I mean, do you find that the people that you coach, or the people that kind of do your programs, or the people that hang around you, when they really start to follow whatever effort is, whatever their passion is, does that seem to have a natural impact on on how they're
Yeah.
perceived by women.
If you step forward and say, from this point on, I'm going to do my best in this world to try and understand my role. In other words, I'm going to try and find what has heart and meaning to me. I'm going to become the student of life and a student of myself, and start on this spiritual journey of my soul, who I am, go into the wilderness, the 40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness. When a man does that, things like attracting a girl or a phone number or what to text her, those are immaterial. Those kind of things, those fall into place. That's this small little symptom of what guys are struggling with. If you head towards, if you no matter what the cost, you head toward what it is that you want your life to look like, then things like women, those things kind of automatically happen. It's like, but the problem is guys concentrate on that and say, I want to learn how to get a girl, and they haven't worked on their belief system, for instance, or they haven't looked in the mirror and made friends with themselves, for instance.
What do you mean by that? They haven't looked in the mirror and made friends with themselves?
I think that's one of the biggest things is guys are blaming themselves for their seeming mistakes. And we're all broken and we're all trying to sort things out. And we're all, lacking confidence. We're all insecure. And the greatest thing a man can do is look in the mirror and look at that little boy that scared little boy that he has always been. And tell him that it's going to be okay. To look at that boy and say, you know what? You've never had any help your whole life. You never had anybody to tell you that it's okay. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to tell you to yourself, to your young self, to your little boy self, that it's going to be okay. Nobody else is going to do it. That's the whole point. It's like no one else is going to tell your inner child that it's going to be okay. It is incumbent upon the men today to do that for themselves. And no coaching, no programs, no anything can ever make them friends with themselves. They've got to look in the mirror and say, you know what? Yeah, we've made some crazy mistakes, but we're starting at this point in life. We're going to go and just be students, and we're going to make more mistakes too. But to shake hands with yourself and let yourself know that it's okay, that if nobody else, you're looking out for you. And the problem is we do the opposite. Men today are blaming themselves and hating themselves, and you suck. And why would you say that? And you made that stupid mistake, and your evening was going great, and then that happened, and now your day is ruined. And so we blame ourselves instead of just saying, well, wait a minute, hold on. I'm sincere. I'm doing my best in this world, and look in the mirror and say, you know what? You're doing the best you can in this world. Yeah, it didn't work out the way you thought, but we're still here and we're still together. Guys have to do this kind of a you got to make friends with yourself.
Is that like a good idea? Is this positive thinking, or would you say it's actually true? Would you say it's actually true that they're going to be okay?
Yeah, it is true. That's the whole point. When I'm coaching a guy, for instance, all they can think is, they come to me and they might be trying to be cool or trying to and the only thing I'm thinking is, hey man, I was trying to be cool when I was younger too, and try and be interesting and try and all this kind of stuff. But I was doing it as a layer to cover over my insecurity and my real sense that why would anybody love me? And so, for sure, it's no one else is going to. It is going to be okay. That's the whole point. But nobody says it. You never get this from any quarter. You never get it from any side. You get a lot of, I don't know. You just don't hear it at your heart level. And when I'm coaching a guy, that's all I can think. I don't look at, okay, here's this guy, and he's dressed well. And I'm looking at him and thinking, this guy is like me, a scared little boy who's trying to make his way in the world of adults. That's what I see. And I don't mean we have to resolve our childhood or that psychotherapy stuff. I don't know anything about that. But I know that whatever he's gone through could be bad stuff, good stuff in his entire life. He's been broken up by women. He's been, abused. He's been whatever. I don't know. It's going to be okay. And so my coaching, that's what it is. It's going to be okay. We're all in this together. We're all standing on this earth. We're all trying to head in that direction because it's cool over there. It looks nice over there. Let's head over there. And that's all it is. And we've got each other's back. And so I don't know. I think I think that message is kind of missing, because there's a lot of Facebook status updates that are motivational. There's a lot of motivational detritus out there. A lot of motivational things. Abraham Lincoln said this, and Einstein said that, and means nothing. None of it lands here. We just nod our head and repost it, and it's nothing fundamentally hits the soul of man, and it's waste of time, waste of energy. And there's articles out there that guys can read and stuff, and they nod their head, but nothing really fundamentally changes the fact that they are the only ones that are going to have to lift themselves up by the hand, say it's going to be okay. They're the only ones, and we've got to do that. We've got to do that internal work. Otherwise, we're well coached and we are well read, and but we've never really been helped. We've got great notes and we've got great talking points, but we're still struggling.
What would the world look like in your opinion if you're saying that guys don't see this and we're all like this? What would the world look like if really men understood this? If they really knew deep down they'd be okay? What do you think the impact of that would be?
Well, I think for sure they would have clearer eyes when they're addressing the world, when they're moving through the world. Like all the games we play in the dating world, for instance, is because we're trying to cover up and trying to maximize what we think is our good qualities and downplay our bad qualities, so-called bad qualities, as opposed to embracing the whole man that we are, the good and the bad, and saying, this is everything I've got to present to the world, and I'll present it full force. And I'm learning, and I'm making my mistakes, and I'm still a student of life. And yeah, I get nervous, or I have these things that I would love to change, but it is who I am. Now let's embrace that, and what would it look like if I was okay with that? And then move forward with that kind of an energy. And the word authenticity is overused. Everybody goes, yeah, nods their head, yeah, let's be authentic. But it really, and vulnerability. I mean, this is kind of overused phrasing, but it's authenticity is really the true attractive soul. And authenticity is just us looking in the mirror and saying, yeah, I accept you the way you are, my friend. I accept you. Now let's go learn some things, but let's not beat ourselves up. Let's not, lay in bed and be angry at ourselves. A lot of the guys that I coach are angry at themselves, and it's time to put that away. It's time to put away childish things now that I've become a man, as the Bible says. So,
a lot of people will kind of listen to you, or people that know of you will say, well, it's okay for Zan, and they'll put you on a pedestal, but based on what you're talking about, is there anything you still get nervous about?
Yeah, all the time. I'm still in. It's a lifelong thing. You're never going to have this sense of real shining, pearly confidence. You're always going to be second guessing and go, well, what's my best decision here? I don't know. Did I do the right thing when I made that decision? I'm procrastinating. I'm nervous about doing this. For instance, I'm starting my second book. It's 2 years since my first book, and I'm starting my second book, and I've got all the themes and the ideas, and I know exactly what it's gonna, the broad strokes and the broad painting is gonna be, but I have no clue the structure of the book, and so I sit there and I stare at it, and I'm frankly, my hesitation there is I'm wondering, can I do it? I'm in questioning, can I execute what I want to execute, what I see in my mind? Can I actually technically, physically, mentally do this project that I want? Can I do it? And it's because I'm sitting there prepping and trying to wonder if I can do it or not, I'm not actually starting it. So yeah, I'm in my head too, thinking, well, wait a minute. And if I just sat down, at the computer for 4 hours a day and looked at the blank white Word document without typing anything, just sat there all day and just looked at it, I know, and I'm convinced, and I know for a fact that it will form. It will rise out of the ashes, out of nothing. But something is still impacting me, where I have all kinds of excuses. Well, I'm going to Milan tomorrow, and I've got to go work on my website, and I've got this over here, and well, this guy's invited us for that. I guess I better do that, and you know what I mean. And so like I can distract myself wonderfully, and I've just got to fight and do that, and sit down and with myself, and bleed.
So what it sounds like you're saying is, and correct me if I'm paraphrasing, but it sounds like you never make it. You never make it
No.
to this ideal guy or this powerful man or anything. And what it sounds like you're saying is it really comes down to choices every single day.
Yeah. Yeah, I tell you, Ankush, because like I finished my first book, The Alabaster Girl, and it took me 10 years to write. And I swore when I'm done this book, I've been working on it for 10 years. I thought, when I go to that celebration victory lap, that, hold up the cup of winning, I'm going to celebrate. And when I finished the book and published it and the day of, and the day after, and the day after that, and the day after that, and the month and the weeks and after that, I felt nothing. Intellectually, I knew that I had done what I had set out to do, but emotionally, I didn't feel that champion. Wow, I just felt like relieved that it was away from me. And now the only thing I think about is the next book. And so you're never, ever, 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 ever going to arrive. Never. You're never going to say, okay, well, yeah. You're always going to feel, but what about that? I mean, like I saw an interview with Elton John, who's like, I don't know, 70 or something right now. And he said, and they were saying, wow, you have this great body of work, this beautiful music you've done all these years. And he goes, and are you happy? Do you ever feel like that, you did something? And he goes, what are you talking about? No, he says, I'm working on an album right now, and I think it's the best one I've ever done. Like, are you kidding? No, like I have a lot of work in me still. He was actually frustrated by the question. I still got a lot of good work on it, and I'm doing my best work right now. So you're never, ever, ever going to feel like you've arrived at anything.
So then, if we take that, in your mind, what does it mean to be a powerful man? On a daily basis, what does that look like? Or a man of, I think you call it in your organization, aspiring to excellence.
Yeah, I think all it is showing up. That old cliche that I've been saying for like over 10 years. Woody Allen said that 80% of success is just showing up, and men are not showing up. They're not showing up in and representing themselves. They're not saying, hey, I haven't got it figured out. I don't have any sense of confidence, but at least I'm going to go forth anyway. I'm going to show up. And I think that the first step forward into trying to understand your path, the first mindful step of like, I'm going to step forward in this direction, and I'm scared, and I'm going to do it anyway. That is the essence of attraction. That is the essence of a powerful man. It doesn't get any more powerful than that, than a guy saying, I don't know and I want to know. I don't have my path figured out, but I'm going to take that first step to there. That's all I know. That is as powerful as he will ever be. And no one knows this. Everyone thinks you have to have all this confidence and all this, or accumulate things or have business success or a bank account. And all the people that have those things are going, well, that's it? How come I don't have any sense of fulfillment here? So the only thing that makes a powerful man is the step you take next. That's it. That's it. Like, and not what you accomplish or whatever, but the step you take in curiosity and wonder and as a student of yourself. And not when you get over there. It's now. Now, then when you do that, then everybody looks at you with different eyes, with a different energy. They say there's something about this guy. There's some kind of force of nature that's surging in him because he's taken mindful steps forward as opposed to just like going through, reacting to everything in his life.
At the start of this interview, you used the word spiritual. You said, a guy going on a spiritual journey. I've never really heard you talk about spirituality or spiritual journeys. I mean, what does that mean to you? Words are quite imperfect, so people might be thinking you could mean all sorts of things by that.
Yeah, I'll speak to that. I mean, if you read my book, my book is an allegory. It's a journey from order to chaos. In other words, at the beginning of the book, there's a man on trains being interviewed by a woman, and he's sure in everything he says. His answers are crisp and clean and short, and he's got the confidence. He's been interviewed before, and he's asked his questions. And as their journey goes, and as the interview goes, and as his monologue goes, he starts moving into uncharted territory in his own psyche and his own mind and where he's going and what it's all about. And he becomes less sure and more curious and more, what are the bigger questions, as opposed to at the beginning, it's about men and women. At the end of the book, it isn't about men and women anymore. It's about how we stand on this earth, our relevance. What is relevant? What is the relevance of our lives? Why are we here? Which are the big existential questions. And my book went into, from the sure, quick answers to these big, giant questions of not knowing. And that is 100% a spiritual journey. And anybody who seeks to learn more about women or about his role in life or excellence is on a spiritual journey, whether you call it whatever you want. It's what it is. It's like, it's trying to understand our soul and our spirit and the energy we give off to the world and the energy we receive. That's it. So it's a spiritual journey 100%.
What do you think your relevance is, or what do you want to be known for? What legacy do you want to leave behind?
That's a really good question. That's a really good question. I'm not sure, because I think that if somebody said, you've got to pick your future right now, there's a gun to your head and you've got to pick your future, I would want to have a future where I'm living quiet and writing books or something. So if I have any kind of a legacy, maybe it's the written word that I leave behind me. I've never been, as you know, Ankush, I've never been a blogger. I don't have that kind of mental commitment to say, okay, I'm going to blog 3 times a week or once a week. I just don't have it. It's not in me. I need to form thoughts, giant package type things, and look at it and fight with it till it beats me up and hope I can win, and then dump it. So I think book writing suits me more than, for instance, article writing. And I've got a website, I've got an audience, I've got guys waiting for newsletters from me, and I don't it's not my style and not my energy. So if there's any kind of a legacy, I think maybe it's the written word, or what would be the coolest thing? If people said, wow, I like the way those 2 words went together. Like, the tone of it is just as important as the message to me, I think. And I like words, so anyway.
And that I'm nearly finished with your book. I've been reading it, and I've been reading it very slowly and carefully, because I think there's a lot in it. Like you say, there's the words, and then there's, maybe because I know you, there's a tone or the spirit of where you come from. And I've heard different things. I've heard some people read your book and they've said, oh, it's fantastic and it's totally different. Yeah. And there's other people that said, oh, all of that stuff's been said before.
Yeah.
What do you think is the real message of your book?
Well, for sure, it's all been said before. There's nothing new under the sun. That's Ecclesiastes. There's nothing new under the sun. In fact, all the stuff that we're rediscovering now, like the power of now and all these things that are, and the secret and all these things that are like hitting the psyche, these were written about 2,000 years ago. Identical phrasing. I mean, you look at Marcus Aurelius or the Stoics or any of this kind of stuff, and it's what we're rediscovering now, and we think it's all new light. Nothing's new. Nothing in my book is new. It's all repackaged so that I can understand it. I wrote the book for my young self, so that if I wish I would have had the book that I wrote when I was 20 or 19, So, it's all been said before, but we didn't listen, so it's got to be said again. And there's nothing that I'm saying that's new, not at all. There's a collective wisdom that it might be repackaged or invented, and there's a lot of people that I get emails every day because people say that my book, for instance, changed your life, and at the same time I know there's a lot of people out there that go, I don't get it, like why is it this form? Why is it so ridiculous purple prose and this flowery, Baroque, Rococo language? But the message or the writing itself, in my mind, for that book, not the next one necessarily, had to have a certain rhythm and flow because The book is about a rhythm and flow. And so the message and the form and structure had to match the actual content. So, but there's a lot of people that don't get it. They say, well, that book, you know, you could have cut it down and you could have just changed it into just the meat of the message. But I could also just email you that too, you know? So there's something that had to be formed in a certain way that I liked. And if other people don't like it, at least I said, you know, that's what I would like to read. So
yeah, I can resonate with that. Things that I do, I tend to start with, do I like this? I mean, with this group, this series, I've had lots of people telling me, you know, you should do it like this, and I'm like, well, what do I want to know?
Exactly.
What am I interested in? Speaking of which, there's something that you say, and it sounds like a paradox sometimes. So, and I'm interested in this. So on one hand, you say, nobody needs coaching. We're all being overcoached. We're not over-counseled. I feel the same way. Nobody needs coaching. And then you talk about an energy exchange.
Yeah.
And I've seen this, that whilst books are great, and you know, I've been reading in the last year more than I've ever read in my life, and taking a lot of value from that. I find that when I've got mentors, when I've got coaches, or even friends that I learn from, there is something very different about a live experience, a live interaction, and it seems like these two, and you say both things, and they seem to be almost opposite. So how do you kind of reconcile those two things?
What I'm talking about is content. When I say everyone has been well coached, but what I mean by that is, like, you look at the books that are like #1 on Amazon and stuff like that, it's all business, entrepreneur, get things done, how to stop procrastinating, how, you know, all these life hack type of books, which is basically coaching books to yourself, right? So everybody's got that on their shelf. Everybody's got the content. There's nothing that you're saying in your coaching that a guy has not heard from somewhere recently. So we're well coached. We're well awash in information, and the stuff that you know that we used to give in seminars 10 years ago, guys are giving for free on YouTube right now. I mean, like, information is everywhere. Content is everywhere. Everyone has access to all the content at their fingertips. What is missing is the application of it to their soul. In other words, exactly what you said, the energy thereof. That's why guys will read my book, they'll you know, read all the stuff I've ever done and nod their head, and they come, for instance, to Bucharest, and within half an hour of hanging out and just going to a restaurant, they go, now I'm starting to feel it. Now I understand all these years what all that information was. You know? So I completely agree that the coaching paradigm of let's give some more information, let's sit and listen, and let's reach out and try and connect with somebody. I think what's missing more than that is kind of the big brother, which says, puts his arm around you and says, watch and learn. Let's do this together. I'm with you. That's what's needed. That's the kind of coaching that's needed. Is like in the moment, in the flow. You know, I got your back, and you come with me, and I will not let you down. That's what we're missing. We never had that big brother, we've never had that father figure. We never had the hero to look up to, and so I think that is the grandest thing that a guy can discover, and it's not very often you find that, right? You get a lot of, and I'm not saying that for instance, life coaching is a bad thing. Not at all. It's a beautiful thing. But guys are, like I said, there's a lot of guys that are getting coached on Skype or you know, phone, and they're taking notes and they're just repeating their patterns. You know, even if they get challenged, even if they have this and they come back with their discoveries, etc. But what jump starts that, and which is an incredible thing, is to really just be taken under the wing of someone. A mentor is the proper case, the proper way you said it. A mentor is incredible. To have a mentor that cares, that has empathy for you. I mean, you look at somebody like Johnny, you know, like in Vegas now. That guy If you spent any time with him at all, he will give you 23 hours of his day because he cares. He has empathy for your experience, and he wants you to get it. He wants you to understand it. And that's a great, valuable thing. I don't know if I answered your question. Because,
yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree with you that, all the information we could ever want is at Google.
Yes.
We've got all the information we need. And there is a very big difference, in my opinion, between information and actually transformation.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, if you want to get healthy, right, work out more, eat less junk, right? That's the information you need pretty much to make a big difference. But actually being transformed, actually having a difference is a totally different thing. And on that topic, if you like, I want to strongly disagree with you on something. And what I want to strongly disagree with you on is that you've said I'm not a coach. You've said I'm not good at coaching. And what I want to strongly disagree with you is I think that you are an excellent coach, or as you put it, a mentor, because I've seen it with myself, and I've seen it with other people that have been around you, that you do care. You have got this. You've got two things, this ability and integrity of actually helping another guy out, because I see that you see yourself in them.
Yeah.
And the second thing that I see is you have got an incredible eye, and you notice things that everyone else in the room will miss. So someone can hang around with you, and they can have been coached and been on all the courses and everything else, and you will say something to that guy, and I'm talking from experience because this happened to me. And you will say something to that guy and say, this is what I see in you, this is what I notice, and it will be 100% accurate, and it will be helpful, and it will change the person. And I've never seen anyone else have that same eye that you have got.
Interesting, huh? It's true. Like, I miss nothing. Like, if at a house party or something like that, I observe everything, even if it doesn't look like I'm observing anything. If I spend time with a guy and he's interacting with a girl, for instance, or girls, or the way he moves, and the way he talks and stuff, I can be in the middle of a conversation with you and I still know what's going on, and the next day I can give him a play-by-play of the entire evening, exactly what happened, why the girl smiled at him, why they pulled away, the whole thing. I see it. To me, that's the thing I like to do the most too, is to really just adjust the guy on the fly, kind of, and adjust that last 5%. They've got the information, but they haven't had it thunk into their solar plexus yet. They haven't had it land. And yeah, so what I like to do, and what I'm very perceptive with that kind of stuff. I always know what's going on. I know what a guy's thinking. I know what he's trying to do. I know what she's thinking, what she's trying to do. I know what the room is flowing like. And I can adjust that guy on the fly, for sure. So.
And what I notice as well with you, Zan, is quite often what you pick up on people, and you come very much from or a lot of people, should I say, approach you to get coaching or understand better about male-female dynamics. But what I find really interesting is when people shift what you call the last 5%. Do you, I mean, I see this, but do you also see that it also impacts virtually every other area of their life?
Yeah. Yeah, because they have, like I said, Ankush, they've been awash in the information. They've read all the books. They've done all this kind of stuff. But there's just that last little fine tuning so that it is applicable to them, so that it lands into their, and they go, phew, now I get it. Get that cliche aha moment where it goes thunk, and you can see it on their face. You can see it, and. So I think that, I'm just being frank here. I think that's the future of what I want to do is, I've done weekend intensive, like 40 guys, and I've done all this kind of stuff. And what I would prefer to do is take one guy and say, you know what, let's see what you're made of. And let's take a look at the way you show up in the world. And I will speak it to you, and I will help you to understand that. The way you're being perceived and the way you perceive the world, because I can see it and I can feel that, and to me that's like, it's what I like to do the most. And yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and I'll give everyone an example. I'll give myself. I'll be the guinea pig, if you like. I'll put myself on the line. It was about 5 years ago. I was hanging out with Zan, and we had some friends around, and I remember I flicked some wet hands on one of Zan's friends, a girl, and I was just kind of fooling around, and she didn't like it. And immediately I kind of like pulled back, and I was like, oh, I don't want to offend someone, and we're all having fun, and no one else noticed it. And Zan wasn't even next to us; he was across the room, and he noticed it. And the next day he pointed this out. But what was really impactful, because I just kind of dismissed this as something small, but what was really impactful for me was, as we talked about it, I saw how I was holding back in every area of my life. It wasn't just in that small interaction. That was a glimpse into how I was being. And from that moment on, I decided after, I came back from Bucharest was, okay, I'm going to push myself out a bit more, and I'm not going to pull back as much as I have. And, I was coming from a good place. I'm not saying, don't care about other people's feelings, but it was too safe. It was too far back. And so I've been more willing to push myself out and say, okay, well, if people get offended, as long as I'm coming from a good place, I'll push that boundary a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
And that, I don't know if you know this, Dan, but that changed how I showed up at my job, like completely.
Really?
I realized that I was showing up really, really carefully in my job, and I wanted to be perceived as this great employee and do certain things.
Yeah.
And I might join in the banter and the jokes, but only to a certain amount. And that was a real big shift for me. And that was just one example. So
yeah, I understand. Like, it's a labor of love for me. I enjoy seeing a guy really start to get it, and it doesn't take long, because like I said, they've been prepped. They have all the stuff. They have things at their fingertips, information at their fingertips, and a lot of and to just take that and make it go and really make it land is incredible. I like to do that. Yeah. So.
Now, if I know you've got a new website, you've got a book, you've got a new book coming out. If people want to find out more about you, if people are interested in maybe even having a conversation, I know you're very, very generous with your time. You're not certainly a salesman or pushy salesman. But if people want to get in contact with you, if people want to find out a bit more about you, if they want to find out your book or anything else, what's the best way they can do that?
Well, my personal website is zanperrion.com. The website to find out what we're doing and to learn more about, for instance, the Ars Amorata, which is my philosophy, and the Amorati, which is our network of men, etc. You go to alabastergirl.com, which is the name of my book, The Alabaster Girl. alabastergirl.com. Contact me. I'm easy to find. I'm zanperrion.com, arsamorata.com. alabastergirl.com, Facebook. Send me a message if you want to have, if you want to experience this kind of thing too. Like I said, I'm pretty easy to find. So come find our stuff. Go to alabastergirl.com and start your journey. So your journey of discovery.
I would highly, highly, highly recommend people reach out to Zan. Like I said, he's had an enormous impact, positive impact on my life. And consider him a good friend, and thank you so much for being on this interview. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for having me, Ankush. Yeah, it's been great.